Active weather coverage continues here, and for good reason, because the major winter storm that caused widespread disruption across parts of Ontario yesterday is still making its presence felt, just farther east now. You can see the impacts clearly from earlier scenes in Oakville, just outside the GTA, where vehicles were stranded, traffic ground to a halt, and snow quickly overwhelmed roads. Toronto itself saw record-breaking snowfall, the result of a powerful 1-2 punch, the main storm system combined with intense lake enhancement off Lake Ontario. That combination pushed snowfall totals higher and faster than many people expected. Now, the good news for the Greater Toronto Area is that the worst of the storm has moved on. Conditions are gradually improving there. But as often happens with winter systems like this, the story doesn't end, it simply shifts east. And we're already seeing that next chapter unfold in Atlantic Canada. There's been a noticeable increase in snowfall across Nova Scotia, especially in and around Halifax, where fresh snow has been steadily piling up through the morning hours. Joining us live from downtown Halifax is meteorologist Nathan Coleman. Nathan, thanks for being with us this morning. First of all, what has it been like out there so far? Well, it's great to be here, though I'll be honest, my face feels like a popsicle this morning. We've been outside for quite some time, and the cold definitely makes itself known. I set up the camera under a sheltered area just to protect the equipment, but there's been a lot of exposure to the elements. I'm bundled up in a heavy parka, which helps, but even with that, you can really feel the cold. I actually brought a shovel with me this morning because where my vehicle is parked, I'll definitely need to dig out later. Snow has been falling continuously, and it's been adding up quickly. That's a great point. Having a shovel in the car is something a lot of people forget about, but it can make a huge difference. If you're driving in these conditions and happen to get stuck, you don't always want to rely on waiting for roadside assistance or a tow truck. Being prepared can save a lot of time and frustration. Nathan, let's talk about the type of snow falling today. Last week, Halifax saw around 21 centimeters, but it was that heavy, wet snow that's really difficult to shovel. Is that what we're dealing with today? It's actually a complete contrast. That snow last week was dense and heavy, tough to clear off cars and sidewalks. But this morning, the snow is much lighter and fluffier. I'll show you here, you can see it's that fine, powdery snow. This is what skiers love, often called champagne powder. It's great if you're sledding or just enjoying the snow because it's softer when you fall, but it's not ideal for building snowmen. The bigger issue is that it piles up fast and because it's so light, it blows around easily. That creates blowing snow, which can reduce visibility very quickly and make travel more dangerous. Exactly, and that blowing snow is a major concern, especially with wind picking up at times. That leads us to closures. We're hearing about a lot of schools being closed today. What else is shut down? Quite a lot, actually. Downtown Halifax is unusually quiet this morning, it almost feels like a ghost town. All schools across mainland Nova Scotia are closed and universities are closed as well. Major campuses downtown are shut, and provincial government offices are also closed for the day. The city is advising workers to work from home if possible. That said, some jobs obviously can't be done remotely. Just a short while ago, I saw a city truck pull up nearby, and 4 workers got out with shovels to start clearing snow along the curb. So even on days like this, there are still people out here keeping things moving. Absolutely, and helping neighbors is another big part of days like this, especially for those who may need a hand clearing driveways or sidewalks. Thanks very much for that update, Nathan. Stay warm out there. Now, looking at the broader picture, snowfall totals across parts of the Maritimes are expected to reach between 20 and 40 centimeters, with some localized areas potentially seeing even higher amounts where bands persist the longest. Wind is also playing a role, blowing that light snow around and further reducing visibility at times. That combination of accumulating snow, wind, and cold temperatures makes for challenging travel conditions throughout the region. And the system isn't done yet. As this storm continues its eastward march, Newfoundland is next in line. Snow is expected to increase there tomorrow, along with gusty winds that could lead to blowing snow and reduced visibility. So while Ontario begins the cleanup process and conditions slowly improve, Atlantic Canada is now dealing with the heart of this winter system. It's a reminder of how dynamic and far-reaching these storms can be, affecting multiple regions over several days. If you're traveling, take extra time. If you're heading out locally, make sure your vehicle is prepared. And if you can stay home, today is a good day to do just that. This has been a truly historic weekend of snow across the Greater Toronto Area, and winter is far from finished. In fact, what we're dealing with now is a reminder of what real Canadian winter looks like: heavy snow, bitter cold, and lingering impacts that will be felt for days, not hours. Let's start with the numbers because they are remarkable. At Pearson Airport, 46 centimeters of snow was recorded. That alone puts this storm into the record books. But when you move into the city itself, the totals climb even higher. Downtown Toronto saw approximately 56 centimeters of snow, an extraordinary amount that impacted all 2.8 million residents of the city. To put that into perspective, the last time Toronto experienced snowfall on this scale during January, it was so overwhelming that military assistance was required to help clear roads and restore basic mobility. That was more than a quarter of a century ago. Now, decades later, the city is once again being tested, not just by snowfall totals, but by how long the impacts last. This storm hit hard, and it hit fast. The GTA took the brunt of it, with near-continuous snowfall, reduced visibility, and rapidly deteriorating road conditions. Snowfall rates at times overwhelmed plows, and even major routes became difficult to navigate. For many, travel simply wasn't an option. And while the heaviest snow has now moved through the core of the GTA, this event is far from over. Attention now turns to what comes next, because winter patterns like this don't simply shut off. As winds shift back to the northwest, we refocus on the snowbelt regions, particularly along the shores of Georgian Bay and the Bruce Peninsula. This is where lake effect snow is expected to re-intensify, bringing additional accumulation to areas that are no strangers to winter, but even there, totals could still be significant. For the GTA itself, there is a weak front expected to pass through early Tuesday. This system may bring a light dusting, perhaps a centimeter or two, but nothing on the scale of what we just experienced. It's more of a reminder than a reload. However, lake effect snow remains a factor, even if it struggles at times. One of the key limiting factors right now is ice coverage. Over the past week, ice has been steadily expanding across parts of the Great Lakes, and that has a direct impact on how much lake effect snow can develop. Less open water means less moisture available for snow squalls to feed on. Georgian Bay, in particular, is seeing increasing ice coverage, which will limit the intensity of squalls there. That said, other lakes tell a different story. Lake Ontario, Lake Superior, and northern Lake Huron remain relatively open, and as long as that open water exists, they can still generate lake effect snow under the right wind conditions. But even that is about to change. Because behind this storm comes something just as impactful: extreme cold. When you look at the temperature outlook, it's dominated by deep shades that signal Arctic air locking in for the week ahead. This is not a brief cold snap. This is a prolonged stretch of winter cold that will shape conditions well beyond snowfall. Daytime highs in Toronto are expected to bottom out around -14 degrees Celsius, and that's before factoring in wind chill. Overnight lows will drop even further, creating dangerous conditions for anyone exposed for long periods of time. This kind of cold has consequences. Snow removal becomes more difficult as snowbanks freeze solid. Vehicles struggle to start. Salt becomes less effective on roads. And even small amounts of blowing snow can refreeze quickly, creating icy patches that catch drivers off guard. And while the cold will eventually help increase ice coverage on the lakes, reducing lake effect snow over time, it also locks in winter conditions and slows recovery efforts. So while the headlines may say the storm is over, the impact phase is just beginning. Cleanup will take days. Snowbanks will remain high. Side streets will stay narrow. And with temperatures staying well below freezing, melting won't be much help. This is one of those winter events that people will remember, not just for how much snow fell, but for how long it took to fully recover. The message going forward is simple: winter has firmly reasserted itself. Travel plans should remain flexible.